They called him the richest man in modern history, but behind the unimaginable fortune, there were secrets people still argue about today. What if the man who built the modern oil empire didn't just win the market? What if he controlled it? John D. Rockefeller was born in 1839 into a poor family. His father was a traveling salesman who was often away and rumored to be involved in questionable deals. From an early age, Rockefeller learned two things: money means survival, and trust is a dangerous luxury. By his early 20s, he was already obsessed with accounting, precision, and control. He didn't drink, he didn't gamble, he didn't waste money. Every cent had a purpose. Then came oil. In the 1860s, oil wasn't just a business, it was chaos. Hundreds of small companies drilled wells, prices changed daily, and nobody truly controlled distribution. Rockefeller saw something others didn't. The real power wasn't in oil itself, it was in transportation, refining, and supply chains. By 1870, he founded Standard Oil. Within a decade, it controlled around 90% of U.S. oil refining. Was it genius, or was it something darker? Competitors suddenly found railroads charging them more, banks stopped lending to rival companies, some refineries mysteriously burned down. Coincidence or strategy? Rockefeller never publicly admitted to illegal actions, but leaked letters later revealed aggressive tactics, secret deals, and price wars designed to destroy competitors. Yet here's the paradox: he was deeply religious. He donated millions to churches, universities, and medical research. A ruthless monopolist, or a visionary who believed the end justified the means? Tonight, we dive into the hidden stories, the alleged manipulations, and the shocking facts history textbooks rarely talk about. Because sometimes, the men who build empires don't just change the world, they reshape the rules, and sometimes, they write history themselves. By the 1870s, Standard Oil wasn't just a company, it was becoming a system. Rockefeller and his partners developed what later became known as vertical integration. They didn't just refine oil, they controlled pipelines, rail transport, storage, and distribution. Railroad companies secretly gave Standard Oil massive discounts, sometimes up to 50%. But even more shocking, railroads sometimes paid Standard Oil rebates on oil shipped by competitors. That meant rivals were unknowingly funding Rockefeller's empire. Many small oil businesses simply couldn't survive. When competitors refused to sell, Standard Oil often started price wars. They would temporarily sell oil below cost in one region, destroying local competition, then raise prices again after taking control. Former rivals later claimed intimidation tactics were common. Some said Standard Oil representatives would show up with detailed records of a competitor's finances, information that should have been private. Others reported sudden inspections, legal pressure, or sudden loss of transportation access. In 1882, Standard Oil created one of the first massive corporate trusts in history. This allowed Rockefeller to control dozens of companies while appearing legally separate. To supporters, this was brilliant business strategy. To critics, it was economic domination. Journalists began calling Standard Oil a monster octopus, controlling industries with invisible arms. But Rockefeller rarely spoke publicly about these accusations. Instead, he focused on expansion and profits. By the 1890s, Standard Oil controlled the majority of oil not just in America, but influenced global markets. But the bigger you grow, the bigger the enemies you create, and soon, the U.S. government was watching. By the early 1900s, public anger toward giant corporations was rising fast. Newspapers published investigations showing how massive industrial companies controlled markets, crushed competition, and influenced politics behind closed doors. At the center of this storm stood Standard Oil. Investigative journalists began exposing secret railroad rebates, hidden agreements, and price manipulation strategies. Public opinion slowly turned against the company. What was once seen as brilliant business strategy started looking like corporate domination. The U.S. government launched antitrust investigations, determined to prove that Standard Oil violated fair competition laws. The legal battle lasted years, with thousands of documents, testimonies, and financial records presented. In 1911, the final decision came. The court ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly and ordered it to be broken into 34 separate companies. For many Americans, this was a historic victory. It proved that even the most powerful corporations could be challenged by law. But the outcome shocked everyone. Instead of losing power, Rockefeller's wealth actually increased. Because he owned shares in all the newly created companies, the total value of his assets grew as those companies expanded. Some historians later called this the greatest strategic loss in business history, because it made him even richer. The breakup also created companies that would later dominate global oil markets for decades. The case changed corporate law forever. Governments around the world started paying closer attention to monopolies. But one question remained unanswered: did the system defeat Rockefeller? Or did Rockefeller outsmart the system itself? Because even after losing his empire officially, his methods continued shaping the corporate world. As Rockefeller grew older, rumors around his name only grew stronger. Some people believed his influence extended far beyond business. Stories appeared claiming he controlled banks, political decisions, and even global economic trends. Most of these claims were never proven. Historians agree there is no solid evidence that Rockefeller secretly controlled world governments or global events, but rumors rarely need proof to survive. His massive wealth allowed him to shape education, medicine, and research on an unprecedented scale. He funded universities, medical schools, and scientific research programs that changed public health worldwide. Supporters say this proves he used his wealth to help humanity. Critics argue something darker. They ask whether philanthropy was partly designed to rebuild public trust after years of aggressive business tactics. Some believe large-scale charity can also create long-term influence, shaping research directions, education systems, and policy discussions. Another fear existed at the time: concentration of wealth. People worried that if too much money stayed within a small elite circle, it could shape society without public approval. Even today, economists debate Rockefeller's legacy. Was he a visionary who built modern industry and funded scientific progress, or a symbol of how unchecked corporate power can grow beyond public control? The truth likely exists somewhere between these extremes. History remembers both sides, and maybe that is why his story still feels mysterious today. When Rockefeller died in 1937, his personal wealth, adjusted to today's money, made him one of the richest individuals in history. But money was only part of his legacy. His real impact was structural. He helped define how modern corporations operate. Efficiency, scale, vertical integration, and market control became standard corporate strategy. Many modern global corporations use similar systems today. Large companies focus on controlling supply chains, distribution networks, and infrastructure, exactly the strategy Rockefeller built more than a century ago. Some economists say he helped create the foundation of modern capitalism. Others warn that his model also showed how dangerous unchecked corporate dominance can become. The world today still struggles with the same questions. How much power should corporations have? How much control over markets is too much? And who should regulate global economic giants? Rockefeller's story isn't just history. It is a warning, a blueprint, and a mystery, because even today, the line between innovation and domination can be thin, and history shows one repeating truth: power doesn't disappear, it evolves. When John D. Rockefeller began stepping away from business, he already knew one thing: true power isn't built for one lifetime, it is built for generations. Unlike many industrial tycoons of his era, Rockefeller focused heavily on building a strong family structure. He believed wealth without discipline would destroy future generations. From a young age, his children were taught strict financial responsibility, religious values, and controlled spending. Even though the family was incredibly wealthy, children were often given limited allowances. They were required to track spending and understand the value of money. His son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., became the key figure who transformed the family image. While the father was known as a ruthless business strategist, the son focused on public good, philanthropy, and large public projects. One of the most famous examples was the development of Rockefeller Center in New York, a project that created thousands of jobs during the Great Depression and became one of the most famous business and cultural complexes in the world. The Rockefeller family began expanding influence far beyond oil. They invested in banking, real estate, global finance, and large-scale charitable foundations. The Rockefeller Foundation became one of the most powerful philanthropic organizations in history. It funded medical research, education programs, and global public health projects. Supporters say the Rockefeller family helped modernize medicine and education worldwide. Critics raise a different perspective. They argue that when wealth reaches extreme levels, philanthropy itself can become a form of soft power, influencing which research gets funded, which universities grow, and which global programs receive support. But regardless of opinion, one fact is undeniable. The Rockefeller family created one of the most powerful financial dynasties in modern history. Unlike many wealthy families that lost influence after one or two generations, the Rockefellers maintained relevance for over a century. Today, their legacy exists not only in finance, but in universities, global health programs, urban development, and international policy influence, because Rockefeller didn't just build wealth, he built continuity, and continuity is the rarest form of power.